The following message is brought to you by Mike Koplitz. He is an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church and an ordained Messianic rabbi.
The Transfiguration in the Gospel of Luke is located in chapter 9, verses 28 to 36. You can examine many different theological books on this passage and read many different things. The Transfiguration story is a mystery which is alluring. It should awaken a curiosity in every listener. Unfortunately, it doesn't, because the true meaning of the narrative is still confusing to most Christians, even after 2,000 years. Most Christian theologians say the Transfiguration is a narrative to tell us that Jesus is divine. Look at what happened to him. Look at whom he was talking to. Is there any question about Jesus' divinity? For us, yes, Jesus was divine, but in the story, the question still existed for Peter, James, and John. They witnessed the event, and still they did not grasp what was happening. Was this the glory of God through Christ, or was it something else? Peter, James, and John failed to see that with Moses and Elijah, the conclusion is that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. But most Christian theologians, if they go down this path, they do not complete the journey. How do Moses and Elijah relate to Jesus? Is this a handoff of the responsibility, like in a football game when the quarterback hands off the ball to a running back? Taking the easy route, this story is a repeat of what happened at Jesus' baptism. A voice came out of heaven to tell the spectators that Jesus is indeed the Son of God. Then the question becomes, what it means to be the Son of God is answered. So the hidden meaning of the story stays hidden. What a difficult passage to put into practice. How is a congregation to approach this narrative and do something with it? Faith is a verb, so what are we expected to do? The Transfiguration narrative bears witness to the identity of Jesus Christ. We can focus on the words spoken by God the Father from the cloud. In the same way God the Father spoke to us from heaven at Jesus' baptism, we are called to obey the words and actions of Jesus. This means that the church must be on the mission that Jesus started. But what happens when we do not like the mission? How many of the churches of Jesus Christ are doing the same mission as Jesus did? Sadly, the number is shockingly low. Our churches spend a great deal of time and energy internally fighting over the silliest things. Control of the kitchen, control of a Sunday school room, and other petty things. Jesus and his apostles did not have to be concerned about worldly matters because they were poor and had next to nothing. What would happen to our churches today if we took away the buildings and endowment funds and became churches like the first century churches were? If we didn't have to worry about materialism and politics in the church, we could focus directly on the mission of Christ. The attempt to change the perspective of the church from self-indulgence to the mission of Christ comes with wounds which sometimes are too deep to heal, especially for the pastor. The modern church has been idle for so long that it has forgotten about the mission. The concern is materialistic at administrative board meetings and not about reaching out to people who do not know Christ. We cannot blame the churches of today because our predecessors set this belief in motion, and trying to change it is like stopping a boulder which has just started rolling off a mountaintop. The best that can be done is to slowly chip away at the church attitude in hopes that there is something left. When the congregation realizes that service to Christ is more important than service to oneself. There are some churches out there in the kingdom that are trying as hard as they can to be on mission for Jesus Christ. They are few and far between. When you find one, stay with them and be there to help them continue the mission of Jesus Christ. The church promotes apathy Let me tell you how. I was baptized in a church that had over 500 people in its membership rolls. However, the Sunday worship was around 100 people. This says that when you join a church and proclaim Christ, it is not necessary to devote time to the church, which is devoting time to Christ. Another problem is that the church created and hired professional missionaries. The people of the church used to accomplish the outreaches and missions of the churches to reach people for Christ. I am not saying the church has completely turned over that responsibility. I am saying that the church has given a huge amount of its responsibility to non-church Christian organizations. Let me give you an example. In the 1950s, in a small town, there were 3 churches, a Methodist, a Lutheran, and a Presbyterian. The 3 worked together to have a food pantry. The people of the church stocked it and manned it. Then one day, the people decided that they did not want to work it anymore. Why? The reason was because the people did not want to associate with the poor people of their community. So, to solve this problem, they created a professional food bank. The 3 churches gave money to the professional organization they created. The people of the 3 churches purchased their outreach. This allowed help to the poor to occur, and it prevented the rich church folks from interacting with them. Today we have dozens and dozens of such organizations in our communities. The church folks need to return to a time when they interacted with the people they were helping. By doing this, the people being introduced to Christ through the generosity of the church folks can occur. Professional organizations tend not to tell the people they are assisting where the money came from. If the church ran the food bank in that small town I told you about, then evangelism could happen. One last note about that food bank is that the professional food bank, which the 3 churches established and fund, does not tell the people that their help comes from the 3 churches of the town. It is sad. So, how can you help people in your community and show them how Christ is working in their lives? Also, we need to encourage our church members to return to church. Our church sanctuaries must become full again, so that when the newly baptized adults join the church, they will see excitement in the love for Christ and not apathy. You can make a difference by helping your church to create hands-on mission work in your community. Go out and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, just like his disciples did. You can make a difference.
Thank you for listening to this message. I hope it blesses you in some way. And as always, shalom.